All right, all right, all right. I am so excited. Guess who I have with me today, folks? I have Mr. Jeff Pearson.
Hello.
How are you, Jeff?
Oh, I am groovy. How are you?
I am groovy too. I love this. You'll see Jeff's picture about that. We did have this whole elaborate, I had this whole elaborate graphic for him. And, you know, there are just those days. But guess what,
Yeah.
folks? I hit go live.
That's right.
That's right. So if you don't know, Jeff, besides being a really good friend of mine, and his wife, Catherine, and you know, I haven't met the three Bambinos, but I'm going to meet these babies one day.
Soon enough.
Soon enough. That's right. As a host here at Achieve TV on E360. And you will catch his show. When is it, Jeff?
Every Tuesday, every Friday at 10 a.m. Mountain Time live.
Yes. So
yes.
let's it's so important that we understand that we are a community, that we are together, because you know there's an old saying in an old ancient book that says when we are of one accord, there is nothing that could be denied us. So let's all be one accord here. So that's Jeff, right. You have an invisible condition.
I do.
So tell our audience about it, because I know about it. They know on your show about it, but my guests probably have never, not only have they not heard of Jeff Pearson before, which they do now, and now you know you're just like a superheroes.
Now that I've been on your show, I am. Yes.
Oh. But what they don't know is the invisible condition that you and my nephew and so many people live with day to day. So why don't you tell us about hydrocephalitis, right? Hydrocephalus.
Yeah. No, you're good. It's close. You're close. So thank you for having me on, by the way. This is awesome. I'm so excited. And yeah, I was born with hydrocephalus, and it was discovered at my at 2 weeks old. So that's when they found out that that's the condition that I had. And hydrocephalus is something that happens when somebody has, most commonly, people are really little when they're diagnosed, like weeks, months old. And what usually happens is, like for in my case, I was we're at the 2 week checkup after I'm born. We go to the 2 week checkup. They do the head measurement. They're making sure everything's cool. And my head measurement was a little bigger than they wanted to, so they did a CAT scan, and then they found out that it was hydrocephalus. So so what happens in hydrocephalus is the ventricles, everybody has ventricles in their brain. Everybody's brain produces what's called cerebral spinal fluid every day. About a quart every day is produced of this fluid in everybody's brain. And most people have uh, wide open ventricles that can just drain it, and it goes down the spinal column and goes to into the body where it needs to go. Those of us with hydrocephalus, in some cases, in my case, one of those ventricles was blocked, and so I did not get that free flow of CSF where it needed to go. It was starting to store up in my brain. And when that happens, if it's not caught early enough, with a baby, it's you got a little more leeway, because the skull is still, got the plates that still haven't come together yet. It's a little more flexible. It's not quite as time sensitive, but you still want to catch it early if you can. But in my case, they caught it at 2 weeks old. But yeah, when there's nowhere for that fluid to go, it can swell. It can look like the head is bigger than it should be, and it can compress the brain. And if it's really not caught in time, it can actually be fatal. So I'm very thankful for the amazing doctors and surgeons and everybody at the hospital that caught that and was able to take care of it in enough time, so that here I am before you now. So
So how many
when they did,
surgeries
that's all I'm saying.
how many surgeries have you had?
Oh my gosh. Total, I my gosh, I would brain surgeries. I think I've had about 8 or 9, something like that. Total surgeries, I probably have had somewhere between 10 and 20. I'd have to go look. Memory's the second thing to go, and I forgot the first. So I usually write this stuff down, but yeah, surgery is definitely a thing. Yeah, and my first one was at 2 weeks old. My last one was a couple of years ago in October of 2021. So it's something you're definitely gonna count on with hydrocephalus, is brain surgery. So
So that must have been very scary for your parents. Here they are, they're so excited, they have a baby, and then to find out that it's a I mean, I know a little bit about it, not a lot, but a little bit, because my nephew was born with
yeah,
hydrocephalus.
yeah.
And now, what is the survival rate for for children?
So right now, it's I mean, with the medical advancements in technology and things that they've figured out now, I mean, there's so many procedures that weren't even a thing when I was born, that I don't know the stats to answer your question. I
Uh-huh.
don't really know what the statistics are with that, but I do know that back in 1977 it was a lot lower than it is today, when I was born. So, and 10 years prior to that, oh man, I know people that are 10, 15 years older than me, that they are they didn't catch it in time, so they had more brain damage because of the compression of the fluid on their brain. And it's so as medical advancements progress, it's gotten much better.
So, what type of as you were growing up
Yeah.
as a child,
Mhm.
what type of issues did you have to overcome because of your condition?
So I actually had parents that were absolute well, I still do. I still have parents.
You still have
They're
parents.
they're amazing. I still talk to them. They're in Oregon now, hanging out with little grandbabies and stuff. But yeah, Scott and Joan, Pearson, I mean, my parents are amazing, and they made me, uh, yes, I was born with this condition, and yes, there were going to be some concessions made. There was going to need to be some things that were different with me than if I wasn't born with hydrocephalus, right? So, so just a little, info here to catch everybody up. When you have hydrocephalus, that fluid has to go somewhere, and if the ventricle is blocked, you have to put in a device. Mine is back here behind my right ear under the skin, called a shunt. And that shunt is a mechanical device that goes through a hole in your skull and goes into the brain itself, into the ventricle, that draws the fluid out. The shunt pumps it down, and it drains and empties into the body and kind of reabsorbs itself naturally. So, as you can imagine, with this back here, basically exposed. I mean, unless I wore a helmet everywhere, which I did not. It was a little bit scary, probably, for my parents to say, "Oh my gosh, what's he going to be able to do?" So, as you can imagine, I never really played. I didn't play football or basketball or contact sports or anything like that. But I tell you what, my parents did an amazing job of saying, of not making a big deal of it, and not making it feel like I was sick or different or weird because I had this condition. I didn't even worry about it. I didn't even know I had anything really, because my first few surgeries was so long ago. So I was so young, I didn't even remember having them really. And then growing up in elementary school, junior high, high school, I just kind of, my parents just gently steered me towards activities that would be less risky for somebody like, with a shunt. So I was a band guy. I like to say I was a band geek and a choir boy. I did from seventh grade all the way through high school. I did band, and then I got into choir and singing and everything in high school. And I'm thankful I did, though, because Catherine and I met in seventh grade band class. So
No, you are childhood sweethearts.
yeah, we met in seventh grade. I didn't have the courage to talk to her toward the end of the year in seventh grade, because I was like, man, she's so cute. I don't know if I can, but yeah. So I'm so glad that I was a band geek and a choir boy, because that changed the trajectory of my life forever. Because yeah, I mean, obviously now we've been married for almost 24 years, 3 beautiful children. So yeah, but to answer your question, yeah, I mean, I was brought up to not think anything was weird about it. It is what it is. You just go do your thing and play, and we'll see what happens. It was a very normal childhood. It was awesome.
And I looked up while we were doing this. I did my my Google thing,
Yeah.
and I want our audience to understand what a miracle you are, because one of the things about this show, Jeff, is that there are miracles around us every day.
True.
God, yes, there's all sorts of in the world, but we don't recognize the miracles. So 50% of children born with hydrocephalus die before the age of 3. 80% do not make it to adulthood. So this is my question. I'm going to put one of those like deep cerebral questions out there.
Bring it on.
Okay. So your parents went out of their way to make you feel, well, to show you that not you were normal, but you were special.
Yeah.
And because you weren't, because they didn't, they mainstreamed you, they brought you into the fold. How much do you think that has to do with your amazing life? Because I mean, when we first met, I had no idea until we'd known each other for a while when I found out your condition. So how much of that do you think affects the mindset of, my life is amazing and it's going to stay amazing?
Well, yeah, no, thank you. That setup by my parents, I think, was everything. I mean, I know people now. I mean, everybody knows. I feel like everybody knows somebody with something, right? There's always, and a lot of them are invisible. Honestly, there's so many invisible conditions out there, but there are some people that take a more victim mentality, or like, oh, I have this thing and so I should act like a sick person, or and I'm not trying to minimize anybody's situation here. I mean, everybody's life is different and everybody's condition affects them differently, and so I'm definitely not trying to minimize anybody, but for me it was more, I watching my parents be successful, and because they were very successful business owners their whole life, and so I had an amazing example, and so I never really thought anything was, I mean, I never really thought it was special because I didn't know a lot about it. They didn't really tell me about it because there was no reason to. I mean, if I felt normal and I was rolling with the punches, then yeah, it's fine. Why, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So I just kind of carried on, and yeah, looking back, of course, yeah, I had an amazing childhood, amazing, and it's still, I mean, yeah, for somebody, especially those statistics. I mean, there's so many stats out there for stuff. I can't possibly know them all, and those were amazing. I didn't have any idea about the survival rate and stuff. That's crazy. So you're right. I guess in that sense, yeah, it is pretty miraculous that 46 years later, here I am living with have a beautiful family and married for 2 decades, and business owner. And I mean, yeah, you're right. It's amazing. So
So you didn't realize that what a miracle you are.
no, well, I mean, when you're in it, when you're living in it, it's hard because you talk about it like it's no big deal, and it's because I had the experiences I did. You're right. I have had a relatively low amount of revisions, to revisions being surgeries to replace the device when it fails. I've had a very low number compared to some people that I've talked to and that I've gotten to know over the last year or so. So yeah, it's phenomenal. I firmly believe that God put me, I mean, there's no accidents in life. There's no such thing as an accident. It's all ordained by God, and so He orchestrated all of this so that I could grow up the way I did, so that we could be here today. Honestly, I mean, really. And I think looking back, it's easy to tell that, yeah, it is miraculous. Honestly. So
I am hoping that um, as more people understand about the condition, my nephew is in Washington D.C.
mhm.
Um, advocating for more
Yeah.
research and more help, that people will realize that it's not that just because you have the condition does not mean there is no hope.
Oh, good Lord, no. No, it's not a death sentence. The diagnosis is not, yeah, that doesn't define you at all. It's what you do with it, you know? Yeah.
So when you were growing up and you were in school, um,
Mhm,
particularly middle school when you met Catherine,
mhm.
um, and you as your parents have raised you to be Jeff Pearson, uh, everyday miracle. Um, were there limitations, or were there any, what should I say? Did people look at you differently, or did did any of that happen while you were growing up?
No, because nobody knew. I mean, family did. Family and maybe close friends knew that I had hydrocephalus, but we didn't talk about it because there was no reason to, because it didn't appear that I was any different than anybody else. So it wasn't like that. Like I said before, my diagnosis didn't become my identity. It wasn't. this is our son Jeff, and he has hydrocephalus. It was never that. So we until it needed attention, or until it barged into our life unannounced and said, pay attention to me and fix what's wrong, we didn't have any reason to talk about it. So really nobody knew. I mean, and I did all kinds of normal kid stuff, and nobody thought anything of it because most of them just didn't know.
So at what point did it become an issue for you that you felt you had to become an advocate? Because you are an advocate, and I love that about you.
Thank you. So 18 years old is probably the first time I remember. Well, 16 years old really, but 18 was the first surgery that I had that I could remember. Because all the rest of the surgeries I've had previous to that was before I was 4. For hydrocephalus, I had eye surgeries and different things throughout my life, as well as a result of the hydrocephalus. But as far as a shunt revision or a related surgery, first one I remember was 18. So I really wasn't. I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna have surgery. Okay, cool. I don't think I realized the magnitude of it. It's brain surgery, people. It's serious, but I didn't really think anything of it because my parents didn't set me up to be nervous and freaked out about it. It's just like, okay, well, God will take care of you, and here we go. Let's do it. We'll see you when we wake up, and we'll go home. So the first time it really started to impact my life in a way that that was starting to really make a difference in a kind of, I don't want to say a negative way, but I was starting to take notice, was back in 2013. That's kind of where I had my it was my start of my many years of many surgeries. And so that's when I started. We can talk about that at some point, but that's really what made me. There was a point in 2018 after my 3rd shunt revision in just a few years that I came to know that this is something I should be doing. I should be getting the word out about this, and because people need to know there's hope in the midst of a diagnosis even like this. So
The fact people need to know there's hope.
Yeah.
And so in 2013, you had it became something serious.
Yeah.
And so here you are. You're in, let's see, 2013. You're at the end of your 30s. Are you 30 or 40?
2013, I was 36, I believe.
You're 36. You have 3 children. You have a wife, and all of a sudden, what I call it is when life happens, or the lights go out, and that's the whole idea behind One Punch Entrepreneurs is, what do you do when the lights go out?
Right.
You have to start over.
Exactly. And that's exactly what happened. I was working, and I had woke up that morning and I kind of had a tummy ache, and I was like, oh, maybe it's something I ate the night before or whatever. I mean, understand, as a Hydra Warrior, which is what we kind of call ourselves affectionately, Hydra Warriors, those of us with hydrocephalus, our pain tolerance is ridiculously high. And so that particular day in August, I was working security. I'm a security guard for a company that I worked at for about 12 years. And this was a couple of years into that career. And we were doing security at a ballpark, and I was literally on the ball field at the end of the game with a fireworks display going above me. And the worst pain I'd ever experienced in my life hit. And I drove home, which was probably not a smart idea, but like I said, we're stubborn. We have high pain tolerance. I can do it. So I drove myself.
No victims in this house.
That's right. That's right. Take that. So I drove home and asked my wife to call an ambulance. And so the ambulance came, and they took me to the hospital, and they ended up the short version of the story is I ended up having emergency abdominal surgery, which was caused by I had a pinched off intestine, basically. I have a bunch of scar tissue from my abdomen from previous surgeries for hydrocephalus, because there's this part, but then there's the cord that drains into the abdomen. So there's all sorts of scars down here too from placing that in a certain area of the body so it can reabsorb. So all this scar tissue pinched off my intestine, gave me I thought it was appendicitis or something. So, surgery, got that taken care of. And then 6 months later, had to have another surgery, had a very similar sensation. That turned out to be an infection, a bacterial infection in my cerebral spinal fluid. Thankfully, it was a pocket of it down in my abdomen. It hadn't traveled, up to my brain yet, because that could be deadly. Bacterial infection in your brain, that's not a good outcome usually. So I'm thankful that they caught that. That was 3 weeks in the hospital and 2 back-to-back brain surgeries. And then a few years later, that was March of 2014, and then March of 2018, similar symptom, a little bit different symptoms popped up, but it seems like it always came back to brain surgery. And so another brain surgery in 2018, and then another one in 2021, because I was having balance issues and mind-numbing headaches, and it turned out that the little piece that goes from the device into the brain was almost 100% blocked, and so it wasn't draining any fluid. So it was excruciating. But it seems like every surgery is a little different, but it all leads back to the same place. So that's kind of my cascading, years of crazy that led up to the realization that we need to be out there talking about it. It was in 2018 at a follow-up after that surgery that I was sitting in the little room waiting for the neurosurgeon to come in to talk to us. Sitting with Catherine, and I could hear in the next room, kind of muffled, over the, in the next room, a family, just, you could tell they were just breaking down. It was bad news, that they were getting. And I was thinking, I wonder if they're getting the news that their little baby's going to have a brain surgery, and all I wanted to do was run next door, give them a hug, tell them it was going to be okay, and answer their questions. That's all I wanted to, I didn't, obviously, but that's when I was like, we got to figure something out. We got to do something. I finally figured out what God had me here for. I was like, over the years, I was like, what's going on here? I've come through all this. What am I going to do with it? And and it took a couple of years for it to come to fruition, but that's when it was like, okay, we need to get the word out. We need to advocate for people that can't advocate for themselves. So,
okay. So I brought this because I knew I was going to need it. I'm hearing another family, what the doctors are telling them. But what I find interesting is you didn't listen to what the doctors were telling you as much as you listened to.
Well, you have to listen to the doctors a little bit. You can't. If they say you need surgery, you go do surgery. You have to listen. But yeah, when.
Oh, and I'm not disparaging doctors, because
no.
we need
Yeah.
them. But there's a doctor has to be a realist.
Yes.
And their job is to handle that and, give you options and give you statistics.
Yeah.
But then
that's
there's
really all you have.
Statistics.
Yeah.
And
statistics aren't always the whole picture, though. Yeah.
So when we come back, we're going to take a commercial break. Let's talk about what it takes, that belief, that epiphany that changed your life, and now hopefully will change others. So we're going to take a commercial break, and please do pay attention. Okay, Mama Eva here speaking. Pay attention, because without our supporters, we cannot keep coming to you each week. So we'll be right back after these short commercial messages.
I'm Steve Corey, founder and executive director of Victory Service Dogs. Victory Service Dogs is a 501c3 nonprofit. We were started 7 years ago by my wife and I, and we wanted to find a way to give back to our local disabled veterans.
Hello, my name is David Marino. I'm a retired Marine Gunnery Sergeant. I'm here today at Victory Service Dogs with my Golden Retriever, who is my current service dog, Gunner. Gunner's 2.5 years old, and I've had him since he was 10 weeks old.
Here at Victory Service Dogs, we train their owners to train their dogs to be service dogs. So we just facilitate people learning how to become service dog handlers. You can put a little bit of weight on him for a few steps. Hi, my name is Lance Callahar. I've been working at Victory Service Dogs for about 3 years. I've been the head trainer for a year now. And I really love working here because dogs are capable of doing so much good in the world that I'm happy to facilitate a relationship between a psychiatric service dog and a veteran that needs help.
All right, we are here with my good friend and Hydra Warrior, Jeff Pearson. We were talking before about how in 2013 was kind of a aha moment when you had to start fighting for basically your quality of life. So here you are, you're a father of 3, husband. All of a sudden you have very serious health issues. And how do you manage that and still be able to keep a roof over your head?
The short answer is by the grace of God alone. But yes, I tell you what, I'm not 100% sure, honestly, because we have gone through so many crazy things over the last 10 years. I guess it's been 10 years. August of 13, it's almost 10 years since that surgery. And it's been crazy. I mean, I think August of 13 was actually Catherine's first taste of it too, because the first, several years of our marriage, we were married in 99. So the first 14 years of marriage, we really didn't have to deal with this. And so now all of a sudden, here it comes, and so it was crazy. We reached out to friends and family. We had an amazing, my family was amazingly supportive. Her family, the person I worked for was incredibly supportive. I mean, I went through, good Lord, I've probably had half a dozen surgeries, 4 brain surgeries and 2 or 3 others in the span that I've worked for him. And it's, his name is Eric, and he has been absolutely amazing. So, I mean, it's all about support. And our church family was huge in that too. I mean, with prayer and help, and it's, I mean, you can't do it alone. I mean, I don't care who you are, you can't do it on your own. Even you and your spouse, you have to get help. You have to not be afraid to ask for help. So that's what we did. I mean, we had to reach out, and thankfully people responded, and we were able to, we've been kind of, cruising along. So
You know what I find interesting is something you said there. You had to ask for help. So if
yeah,
you're watching this and you're going through um, your own trials and tribulations, if you have your own set of boxing gloves, trying to go through what life throws at you, I think that's very strategic, asking for help. And the question is, what will people think of me? How do people react when you ask for help?
well, I mean, most of the people we asked for help are people that knew us. So it wasn't we didn't just go knock on doors, or uh, uh, ask. We didn't really go to organizations or anything like that we'd have to like apply for this and that and whatever. It was mostly, friends and family, and so they knew what we were going through. So they were more than happy to. They knew that it was rough, and they'd watched, in one way or another, watched us go through it. Watch me, I mean, if I'm going through it, so is my family. So watched us all go through it, and so they were, it was almost like, well, geez, it's about time you asked. People want to help. They really do. Everybody in their heart of hearts, people want to help people that need it. So yeah.
Yeah, I it's interesting. You said something there. You said, we didn't go to organizations and ask for help. Are there any organizations out there that do provide help for people going through this?
What specifically this? I mean, there is the Hydrocephalus Association, and I'm sure there's local. There's one that I think Hydrocephalus Kids is the one that I've seen uh, too. And I mean, there's some out there, but really, there's not a lot that and correct me if I'm wrong. Don't yell at me in the comments, everybody. But I have not seen a ton of like tangible, immediate help for people that are dealing with the acute situations that come with hydrocephalus. So I really didn't. So it's not because they aren't out there. They're just not visible. They weren't visible enough to me that was my go-to. My go-to was people I loved and that I knew cared about me that could help. So that's, that was my go-to. So
So, how much do you think that one of the things you keep saying and going through, how much do you think, let's face it, you are a miracle, but because of you, I truly believe there are more miracles and will be more miracles out there. So, thank
yeah,
you.
you're welcome. I thank you for that. Yeah.
How much do you think prayer fed into your miracle?
Oh my goodness. I mean, come on. I mean, nobody. I mean, yes, we are a family of Jesus followers. We believe the Bible, and we pray, and it's that was huge. And in fact, funny thing about prayer, funny story. There was one surgery that I went through. I think it was the one in 2013 even, and I was laying there, all decked out in that fancy gown they give you, before you go to surgery. And we're ready to go. And I think it was the one in 13. And I went under, and I had some of the worst, most horrific dreams and visions and nightmares. And and it wasn't very long, and I don't remember them specifically or anything anymore, but the one thing we didn't do before that surgery is pray. And so for all the rest of them, obviously, and it's not because we didn't think about it. I think in the chaos of it, we didn't take the time. And so the next surgery, the two back-to-back brain surgeries I had 6 months later, that was one of the main things. We're like, okay, well, that's not going to happen again. So right before they took me back, my wife and I prayed over the procedure, over the doctors, over the hospitals, over everything. And ever since it's been, that hasn't been a thing, but it is a real thing. There is power in that. So that, yeah, don't ever tell me it doesn't, because it does. So yeah, prayer is powerful.
Get my boxing gloves out, right?
That's right.
So, and okay, so you and Catherine, I know how I've watched you two together. I love the way you work together. You have a very strong bond. I have seen many times after 25 years working with people in crisis in a spiritual capacity, and many times crisis will tear people apart. It seems to have brought you two closer together. How did
Yeah.
you do that? And what recommendations would you make for others going through life challenges?
So that is funny you say that, because I did not realize this was told. Somebody told me, I don't know, a few months ago, that I don't know if it's hydrocephalus specific or if it's just chronic condition specific or whatever, but people that might have been hydrocephalus. But anyway, the divorce rate is astronomical in this thing. I think somebody told me it was like 70 or 80% divorce rate in this type of situation, where it's a chronic thing and you're always having surgery. And by the way, the reason that we're always having surgery is not because we love it and we have a punch card and it's frequent flyer miles and all that stuff. It's because it's because the shunts are yeah, it's not by choice, believe me. It's expensive too, by the way. But it's because these shunts that they use are have some of the highest failure rates of any medical device in history. So it's not even the condition. It's the device. It's the mechanical device that craps out. It fails for one reason or another, and it seems like it's always a different reason, but it always comes back to this little tiny piece of plastic, this little pump here. So, but yeah, I tell you, I think probably part of it might be. I mean, the simple answer is, it's a God thing. I mean, that's the simple answer is, and I fully believe that. But I think part of the reason that you could explain it is Catherine and I knew each other for a long time before any of this happened, and so I think we were so comfortable with each other already, and so I mean, we communicated well. We cared about each other. We cared for each other. We loved each other. We knew what it was to love somebody unconditionally. And so when this stuff happened, it was like, well, okay, this is the next thing. No big deal. We'll just, here we go. Hold on together, and here we go. There was like no option of, well, that's too much for me, I'm out. None of that. Because you make that covenant with God when you get married, and that's it. You're married. There's no secret back door. So I think that was part of it too, was, we're in it for the long haul. So let's do it. What's next?
So I personally, in the world according to Eva, believe that, God knew that you would take your obstacles and fight, not only for you and your family, but for others. Before we took the break, we've got about 5 minutes left. We were talking about, you heard the family next to you getting the news of
Possible.
hydrocephalus.
Yeah.
Possible.
Yeah. That's what it sounded like. Yeah.
So how are you reaching out to help other families?
Yeah, this was a long time coming. But in 2022, it was actually just about a year ago, in May of 2022, we finally landed on an organization that would be mostly based online. We didn't want to do brick and mortar, because I felt like that would I mean, the local is great, and you can still have local impact as when you're mostly online, but you also have the global reach, national and international reach. So we created an organization called Hydra with Hope. And the idea behind Hydra with Hope is to make sure that people with hydrocephalus, people in families that are dealing with hydrocephalus, understand that they are not alone, because they're not. This condition affects 1 out of every 770 babies every single year. That's 430, somewhere around 430,000 babies born every single year with this. Every 15 minutes, somebody's getting one of these shunts just in this country. Forget about worldwide. So it's huge. And so we said, man, that is an audience that needs hope, and needs resources, real resources, not just awareness. Awareness only goes so far. Okay, now we're aware of it. Now what are we going to do about it, and how are we actually going to tangibly help? So one of the things that we decided to do is to write a journal. I say write a book, but it's not really a book. It's a fill-in-the-blank journal that I have behind me here, and I have it right here. It's called My Hydra Warrior Story, right there. And so it walks you through. It's a fill-in-the-blank journal. You can see it's got questions and prompts and places to put pictures and just information, just quotes. There's information about different things in the medical field related to hydrocephalus. The idea of this book is for every Hydra Warrior in the world to have one, really, and to take it and customize it to your own experience. And so when you go in the hospital for your first or for your next surgery, in fact, we even put a little thing on the spine here so you can keep track of which volume it is, like which surgery it is. So you go in there and you fill it out as you're going through it, from the diagnosis to, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to have what kind of surgery, to the hospital stay, to going home, to recovery, to getting back to normal life, or the new normal maybe. And then there's pages specifically in here about what doctor, what surgeon, what hospital, what procedure was done. And so when you go to your next follow-up, you bring this with you and say, and because that's the inevitable question is, have you had any surgeries lately? Or your neurosurgeon says, okay, well, what's been happening? Well, here, doc, here's everything. And so we want to make it simple. The place where this is placed most of the time for people is back here behind the right ear. Well, I don't know about most of the time. For me, it was back here. And so that's where the memory part of the brain is. And so every time they go back in there, it's a traumatic brain injury again for that part of the brain. And so memory is kind of compromised for a lot of Hydra Warriors. So we knew it was going to be super important to have something written down. So that's what we've done with this journal, and the people that have contributed to it, the people that have received it and used it have just loved it. And I can't wait to get it into the hands of every single family in the country, at least, much less the world. Everybody needs this resource. So, and not to mention, I'm also probably next year we'll probably go down the road of coaching. I want to be that resource that people can reach out to and have maybe a monthly or weekly kind of session with people and say, okay, what's going on right now, and what questions do you have? How can I help you? What resources do you need me to point you in the direction of? So that's coming. And then of course the TV show has been amazing to be able to get the word out. So,
well, it's interesting. No wonder we're such good friends, because Hydra Warriors and One Punch Superstars,
yeah.
Which you are, yay. People need hope, but they also need resources. I love the journal. As many of you know, my husband is facing serious life-threatening issues. And I walk in with this big 3-ring binder.
Yep.
Because in today's massive technology world, it's easy for things to get lost.
Yeah.
Yes.
hmm
So I love this. You have given people not only hope, but an actual strategy to keep marching forward.
Yep.
So I love it. Where can they get this journal?
So you can go to our website, hydrowithhope.com, and it's right there, larger than life on the page. Or you can also get it through Amazon. Just search the title, My Hydra Warrior Story. And yeah, I mean, that's it. If you know anybody that has hydrocephalus and wants to be part of our group, we have a private group on Facebook, Hydra with Hope. We also have a public page by the same name. We're on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter as well. So, and we have an email that we send out a couple times a week that has unique information that's not on anything on the social media that highlight different things, different people. So yeah, it's amazing. I kept thinking back to when my parents had this tiny little 2-week-old little baby that they couldn't wait to get started with this new life. And then all of a sudden this hit like a ton of bricks. And what would have been different if they had, something like this, or had a group I mean, Facebook wasn't a thing in the 70s, obviously, but had support, had a community around them, specifically with hydrocephalus in mind, that could help them. And so that's, and then with our show, we want it to be a conduit for other organizations too, not just hydrocephalus, other invisible conditions, to be able to get the word out and spread awareness and resources for people with other kinds of conditions as well. So bring it on.
I love it. Okay, we have 1 minute. Look in the camera. What would you say to somebody who's facing these issues?
I would say that you are not alone. No matter how alone you feel, you are not alone. And there is hope. There's always hope, always, no matter what you're facing, there's always hope. And if you feel alone and you don't feel there is hope, I hate to say it, but go to social media and search, because we're out there and we're here to help. So.
Okay, so it's not a good show unless there's this has been at least a 2 hanky show.
I'm glad I could contribute to that. Thank you. Yeah,
okay, so Hydra with Hope.
Yes.
Make sure you get out there. And also, I'm sure that if you would like to contribute, I'm sure they would be more than happy to accept your contributions. So thank you very, very much, Jeff Pearson. Thank you for being our guest. I hope you'll come back.
Absolutely.
And remember to go see The Invisible Condition on Tuesdays and Fridays at what time is it?
Tuesdays and Fridays live at 10 a.m. Mountain Time.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. So we are going to wrap it up with that in a minute. Tomorrow, I have the magnificent world's greatest mom, Noelle Peterson, on, and she's going to talk about how our relationships affect the different stages of our lives. And then let us not forget Victory Service Dogs and our sponsor, Christina Albert at Creed Studios. I tell you what, be inspired, see her products, see her pictures, see her photos. I have several of them here, including my little horse that's fighting for its existence. And so thank you so very much. May the Lord bless you. May he keep you. May he hold you in the palm of his hands. And we will see you tomorrow at noon Mountain Time. And now let's do that outro. Bye.